Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of All Things Universal Orlando. Today, we're going to be looking at my top 5 tips for planning a Universal Orlando Resort vacation on a budget, on the cheap. So before we begin, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you can be made aware every time we put out a new video. And remember to check us out on Instagram, and now you can also find us on Facebook for exclusive content. Let's get to it. So I've been wanting to make this video for some time now, and what we're going to be looking at are my top 5 tips for kind of doing Universal Orlando on the cheap. This is really kind of centered around somebody who's coming in from out of town, who's going to be staying for a few days. But there's also going to be something at the end for those of you who live right around the corner, who maybe can't afford to do it all the time, who can't have a season pass or anything like that, but you want to come in and get the most bang for your buck. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But before we get into that, I want to remind you to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be made aware every time we put out a new video. Like I said, this is something that is similar to a video I've done in the past, but it's different, even though I've incorporated some of those same ideas, because I've tweaked them a little bit and tried to apply them to the concept of saving money when you go. I think that's something that everybody wants to do, because let's be honest, when you kind of do this haphazard or willy-nilly, man, this vacation can get very expensive. I know, because we've done it that way in the past, and frankly, I'll never do it that way again. We always plan this trip 6 months to a year out, and we're very detailed about it. And if you watched my top 5 tips for planning a vacation, you know what I'm talking about. So with all that in mind, let's get right to it.
Great Scott, number 5.
Number 5, purchase merchandise, souvenirs, all of those things off-site. I get there's something about having an official Universal Orlando Resort t-shirt or coffee mug or what have you. I get that. But let's also get this. It's very expensive. The markup is astronomical. You're going to pay $25 to $50 for a shirt, depending on what you get, that basically says Universal Orlando. Believe me, I know, I've got a bunch of them. But I plan that out a year in advance. I save money for that. I budget money for that. And not all of my stuff came from the theme parks. I've purchased a lot of merchandise off-site at the gift shops on iDrive, at Walmart, at Target, and at Walgreens. And there are plenty of great places off-site that you can buy genuine merchandise, good merchandise, quality merchandise off-site for a lot less money. Now, I want to say this. Many of you are thinking, what about wands? Should I buy a wand off-site? I actually don't think you should. The interactive wands are pricey, $60 to $70, but they're worth it. Certainly if you're a Harry Potter fan, and certainly if you intend on using your wand while you're in the park to navigate through some of the wand experiences. And I've talked about those in previous videos, and I'll put links for those here. Top 5 things to do at Hogsmeade and at Diagon Alley. So I'm not saying you should buy a wand off-site, but I am saying that you should maybe buy a robe at Target, or that maybe you should buy a Universal t-shirt or a Universal themed t-shirt at one of the gift shops on iDrive. Or my best place, honestly, is Walgreens, right there across the street from Universal's Endless Summer Resort. It's a great store. It has tons of memorabilia, Disney and Universal alike, and it's very inexpensive. I've purchased a number of things there, but there's other Walgreens, different areas. I think there's one on Kirkman Drive that has tremendous stuff there. Guys, the point is this: if you buy merchandise on site, you're gonna pay for it, and it's expensive. And that's one of those things that you don't really count on, that you don't always budget for, that when you wind up spending $1,000 more than you anticipated, you're like, where did that money go? Well, it went on the shirt that's around your neck, and it went on the wand that's in your pocket, and it went on the, oh, well, you get what I'm saying. It goes so quickly. Now, merch is a big thing for me and my family. My daughter in particular, as you know, she collects pins and the little pressed pennies, but she saves for that. She watches kids, she babysits during the summer, she has a job, and she pockets that money and plans it out going to Universal. And if that's you, God bless you. But remember, this is a top 5 tips video for doing things on the cheap. So save your money, don't buy things on site. Buy things off site. You'll be glad you did, and so will your bank account. Number 4 is pretty simple. I've talked about this in a lot of videos, but I've never really provided it as a tip, I don't think anyway. Book your vacation, book your trip during a non-peak time. And here's why. Not because it's not so busy, that's the main reason, but it's also much less expensive. Hotel rates go down. Now, park tickets generally stay the same, but packages are galore. The Universal will give you all kinds of packages. Buy 2 park days, get 3 free. You name it, they're constantly doing stuff during non-peak times to get your interest and to get you into the park. First of all, take advantage of those things. Check the Universal website, check the app all the times because these things are happening and you'll miss them if you're not a part of it. So that's one tip. But at the end of the day, you don't want to go during a peak time anyway, unless you have to. I never go during the summer. When I lived right around the corner, I didn't go during the summer because it's hot and crowded and just plain awful. So I don't encourage you to go during those peak times. Now, I get going during Christmas because of all the special events and Mardi Gras and things like that, and that's a different scenario. I do think we should do those things and you should do those things as a part of your vacation. But if you don't have to, don't plan your trip during a non-peak time. One of the top questions I get asked, probably the most frequent question I'm asked is, when's the best time to go? And you all know, I've told you many times, September. It's when we always go. I think it's the best time to go. Kids are back in school. Yes, your kids might miss a few days of school, but teachers will work with you and give those kids work. They can do it on the plane. They can do it during down peak times. It's an easy thing for your kid to keep up to as long as you're on top of them. I get it. My daughter's 15, doesn't like school, and I have to really hound her to get this work done. But she does it because she likes the benefit of having that theme park experience during a non-peak time. September's the best time to go. Mid-September on is exceptional because you have Halloween Horror Nights beginning, and the parks during the day aren't usually that busy, and then you have the Horror Night option at the end. And that's one of the primary reasons we go in September. You can also go in January and in February. These are good times. Find a Universal Orlando calendar. There's a ton of them online, theme park calendars that will give you the peak times to go. But that's the fourth reason, and the fourth way to do this on the cheap is by going during a non-peak time. Things are less expensive, and you'll appreciate your trip much, much more.
Top 10 gigawatts. That's number 3.
Number 3 is one I've given you before. I gave it to you in the other top 5 tips video, and I think this is one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you. Unless you have to, do not rent a car. It's going to kill you. First of all, it's expensive. If you're staying for a week, you're looking at $250 to $350 depending on the car you get just for the week. And if you're staying on site at Universal, you're going to pay anywhere from $20 to $30 a day for parking, and you don't need to do it. Universal's transportation is outstanding. It's absolutely phenomenal, and they can get you anywhere you need to go, and I encourage you to take advantage of that. Do not rent a car. What we do is very simple. Now, I hear what I'm saying. We rent a car for one day. We rent it, we pick it up at the airport, we drive to Publix or to Walgreens, we get the snacks that we're gonna get, we come back to the hotel, we turn the car in because we don't want to pay that parking. It's exorbitant, it's unnecessary, and it's ridiculous. Now, that being said, I also get why people want the freedom of a rental car, and if it fits in your budget, go for it. But remember, once again, this is a top 5 ways to do this on the cheap, so don't rent a car. It will cost you potentially $600 to $700 in parking and rental car fees, and you won't need it. You won't use it, and again, your bank account will thank you, and you'll be glad that you didn't do it. So don't rent a car. You don't need it.
Number 2.
Number 2 is key. If you stay on site, and I do encourage you to stay on site, and I know you're thinking, hey, this is doing it on the cheap. Staying on site's ridiculously expensive. Actually, it's not. Now let's first get this out of the way. Expensive is a relative term. What's expensive to one person might not be expensive to another. I don't make a mountain of money. I mean, I do okay, and my family lives comfortably, but we plan a vacation around this. And since this is our vacation, we want to do it well. But just like you, we want to do it the least expensive way we can and to get the most out of it. So this past time, we tried something we've never done before. We went in January because my son was getting married, and we stayed at Endless Summer Dockside. It is their most budget-friendly resort, and when you consider the economy value that it offers, it does a really good job. Just to give you some perspective, you can book what they call a stay longer, play longer, or a stay more, play more rate. And what the idea is that the longer you stay, the less per night that you're going to pay. If you stay one night, you're going to pay about $150 a night. But if you stay for 5 nights, now hear me, for a 5-night stay at Endless Summer Dockside, I went online and saw this, you can book a standard 2-queen room for $84 a night. Now you do the math. That's not a bad deal. You can probably find something off-site a little less expensive, but the perks you're going to get by staying at Endless Summer are worth a few extra dollars, assuming that it's in your budget. You'll get transportation to the park. You'll get a brand new, clean, themed resort, which is really nice. Yeah, it's not the best that Universal has to offer, but it's not bad. And as much as I don't encourage you eating there, it's pretty reasonably priced if that's what you're going to do. So stay longer and play longer. I'll say this, if you go for 7 days, that rate drops to $79 a night. That's reasonable, and you can save and budget your money over the course of a year to afford something like that, God willing. So for all of those reasons, number 2, stay longer and play longer. That's another great tip for getting the most bang for your buck. Now, before we get to number 1, I have 2 honorable mentions. One for sure you've heard me talk about before. Get an annual pass. It's going to benefit you in so many ways. There will be savings. But again, this is on the cheap, and not everybody can afford to just shell out thousands of dollars for a family to have annual passes. And I get that. But let me give you some perspective. If you commit to doing 2 vacations in 1 calendar year, you can fit 2 vacations on 1 annual pass. Remember that if you pay for your annual pass up front, it doesn't begin until you first swipe it into the park, and you have 1 year from that date. Now, if you're doing this on FlexPay, I've heard that it starts the moment you start paying, so be careful, you don't want to make that mistake. I was considering doing something like that, and I'm really glad I didn't because that would have cost me. But if you pay up front, get your annual pass, you can fit 2 vacations in 1 calendar year. The savings will be amazing. That means that the very next year when you do this vacation again, you're not paying for park tickets at all. The difference is thousands of dollars in savings. But like I said, this is a cheap way of doing things, and so not everybody can afford that, but I get that. But that is the best piece of advice I can give you regarding annual passes. I do it. We don't live in Florida, and I do it. But we make multiple trips, and we reap the benefits of that annual pass, not to mention the discounts, anywhere from 10 to 15% off of all food and merchandise everywhere in the park and in City Walk. On a 5-day stay, imagine how much that percentage could wind up saving you. It's really worth doing, something to consider. Unless Universal has offered you one of those buy 2 days, stay 3 free, that kind of thing, that's a pretty good deal, and it's hard to beat as well. For all of those reasons, the annual pass is your first honorable mention. Your second honorable mention is a little bit generic, and it really doesn't have to do with Universal, but it's a good pro tip. When you fly out of wherever it is that you're flying out from to come into MCO, come into Orlando there, try to get a ticket that leaves on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or a Saturday. Those are your 3 least expensive days to fly out. And depending on when you fly back, that will also affect your rate. But when you fly out on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, tends to be less expensive. And right now, during the COVID pandemic, although we seem to be coming towards the end of it, even though that's the case, airlines are lobbying for your dollar, and they are offering some amazing rates now. You'll have to do this one on your own. It might be cheaper to buy one-way tickets back and forth rather than a round-trip ticket, all depending. It might be cheaper to go on multiple airlines. That's something I'm not going to be able to help you with. That's something you're going to have to do because it's contingent on when you're flying out and from where you're flying out. So all of those things, all of those reasons, that's the number 2 honorable mention. Fly out on particular days that seem to be less expensive than others. You know, before I get to the number 1, I'm going to give you a little throw-in. It's not an honorable mention, but this is just some perspective. Another question I get asked a lot is, how much should I save for 1 day at Universal Studios? It's a generic question that's hard to answer because I don't think you should stay for 1 day, but I get that maybe living in Florida, that's all you're budgeting for. I'm going to give you some perspective. Here's what it will cost you. For a 1-park, 1-day ticket, it's $109 right now, and you can see the date of this video. If you go to the 2-park, the park-to-park ticket, $164. I'd recommend that, certainly if it's a non-peak time. You will have a time, if you're diligent, to get a lot of stuff done there. But you're going to have to pay to park. Parking right now at Universal, $26. $26 just to park for the day. Then you're going to have to eat, and you're probably going to want to take something home with you. So I would budget about $50 a day for food, and probably another $50 for merchandise if you're only going to go 1 day. That amount, if you buy the 1-day park ticket, $235. Park to park, $290. So factor in $300 a day for a 1-day trip, no matter what. Yeah, you don't have to eat extravagantly. Maybe $50 is high. You can probably go cheaper than that. And then the next thing I would say that you can do is you don't have to buy merchandise. And if you live there and you're going for just one day, you probably already have merchandise. So you can probably knock that out too. That's really up to you. But that's the perspective that what we're talking about now here. So here it really is.
Number one.
The number one thing that will save you money, guys, to me it's obvious. Don't eat in the park. Don't do it. It's expensive. Ridiculously expensive. Go to Publix the night before. Go anywhere the night before. Buy sandwiches, make sandwiches, put them in a backpack, buy water, buy bottled soda. I don't care what you get. Get your own food from somewhere else and save gazillions of dollars because food is expensive. Buy healthy snacks, granola bars, things like that, things that will fill you, high protein things that will satisfy that need for you because as you're walking and burning off calories, your body will get hungry and you need to fuel your body. So make sure you have plenty of stuff there, fresh fruit, anything like that is the way to go. Take a backpack with you. You don't even have to put it in a locker, but if you want, you can do that for about $15 and come back. But carry it with you. They have lockers at every ride, and you can put your backpack in the lockers, generally speaking. So that's the number one tip. I don't have to elaborate a lot on it, but having snacks and water will help you save a lot of money when you're not spending money on meals, and you can focus on other things and put that cash dollar value towards other things. But remember this, you're gonna have to eat. You're not gonna be able to do this without eating because if you do, you're gonna get a headache, you're gonna run out of gas early, you gotta eat. So go the night before somewhere, get food and take it with you. Take sandwiches and snacks, just like I said. Water, plenty of water. It's important to have water, guys, especially if you're going in the middle of a hot time, and it's Florida, so it's always the middle of a hot time. But that's it. I don't have to go into any deeper detail. The number one thing you can do to save money, don't eat in the park. Plan that ahead of time. Buy food elsewhere and bring it in. I have a list of things that Universal will let you bring in and a list they won't. Some acceptable items that you can bring in: bottled water, small snacks that do not require heating, any food required for medical purposes and medically indicated nutritional supplements, food required for special dietary needs, baby food and baby formula, soft-sided insulated bags no larger than 8.5 inches wide and 6 by 6 high and deep. Here are some things that are prohibited at Universal. No alcoholic beverages, no picnic lunches, no food that requires heating or refrigeration, no glass containers, no hard-sided coolers, and then the size restrictions that I gave you before. No suitcases or those bags that are on wheels that you see people take to the airport. You can't bring those in. No folding chairs, no clothing with offensive language or content, clothing that represents someone as an emergency personnel, so no lifeguard shirts, and no weapons of any kind. Now that has nothing to do with food, but it was on the list, so I gave it to you for free. But that's your number one tip. Don't eat at the park. You'll save so much money if you don't. We budget about $1,000 for food for a week stay, and I overextend that budget every time. That's a big savings for a week that you don't have to spend if you go buy your food elsewhere and bring it in, which Universal Orlando is happy to let you do. Hey guys, remember, like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can be made aware every time we put out a video. Thanks for helping us grow this channel. Thanks for being awesome. Thanks for being a part of our live streams, for checking out the daily updates, all of those things. You guys make this fun to do, and it was already fun. You just make it better. So remember, go bless somebody else today. Just go find somebody that you don't know. Go do something awesome for them. You know, I don't care if you know them or not know them, doesn't matter. Go do something amazing for somebody else. Don't expect anything in return, and watch what happens in your day. It'll be awesome, and you'll be glad you did it. We'll see you.